Breaking the firefighting cycle. So, today we're talking about how to step away from what keeps you stuck in everyday firefighting to step into the work that you actually want to be doing. So, this is how to lead smarter, not work harder. All right. What got you here is not what's going to get you there. My name is Melissa. I'm an executive coach and a management consultant. And what I do every day is I work with managers, with high level managers, with executives, with leadership teams, with management teams, and I help them enhance their communication so that they can increase their influence. They can create self managed teams, and not just any self-managed teams, but self-managed teams who are high performing. And all of that enables them to be more productive while being able to focus on what matters the most for them in their role, which is not the firefighting. Right?
Yeah.
And oftentimes, what comes up in coaching sessions is the firefighting. It's the barrier that prevents us from doing the real work that we need to be doing, that we all know needs our attention. So,
Mhm.
joining me today in this conversation is Kay. Kay is part of my team. Kay, what can you tell us about yourself and your first thought on what you think about firefighting and getting
Mhm.
stuck in that cycle?
Yeah, sure. So, firstly, hi everyone. I'm Kay. I work with Melissa as client solution specialist. Um, Today, I'm just here to offer behind the scenes employee perspective of what all this looks like. Um, Firefighting for me is always being in a crisis mode, in a reactive mode, and not being really present or being productive, truly productive, as I would call it. That to me is firefighting.
Yeah.
Always being in a burnout kind of a situation. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? As we are in this reactive mode, what's happening internally is a lot of cortisol, a lot of unpleasantness, and it
Yeah.
drains us. And it does lead to burnout. So, when I think about what firefighting does to our
Mhm.
nervous system, to our experience, and it does impact us in many ways. So burnout being, the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah.
The second thing that comes to mind as the problem with firefighting is the fact that when we are firefighting, we're also giving out messages to our employees, to our teams, to our colleagues. Leave it to me, I can get it done.
Mm. Yeah.
Hmm. Which is a beautiful thing, right? And there's a certain, wanting to help, wanting to be of service, knowing that you can, but just
Mm.
because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And what happens as employees, as your team, is getting the message that you're always ready to jump in and do the firefighting, is they will be happy to hand you the ball of responsibility. They'll go, hey, I've got a problem here. Can I give you this problem?
Mm. Yeah.
And as they hand over the problems to you for you to think through it, for you to make decisions, for you to problem solve, they're not doing the thinking anymore, right? Not that they're not capable, but they'll default to letting you do all the heavy lifting, all the heavy thinking.
Hmm.
You're going to be working hard. And then the third thing is, I think about impact. And why do we move into management positions and leadership positions? Really?
Mm.
The reason we do it is for the impact. It's an internal knowing that we can make a difference in the bigger picture, wanting to be part of that. And if I'm spending my time fixing the problems of today, I am not focusing on the problems of tomorrow, on the bigger problem.
Mm-hmm.
So my impact is shrinking. So yes, my team's going to love me. I'm going to be super supportive, and my hard work is probably going to go unseen.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you know if you're in reactive mode? Let's talk about that. What are the signs or the little flags that might indicate, ooh, I'm in reactive mode. I'm firefighting.
Hmm.
What do you
Being, yeah. So like I have a very so I'll bring a different perspective to this. Like I know you mentioned that your team will be happy if you're available. But I worked with leaders before who thought like being available made them feel supportive. But honestly, it made things more chaotic because you never know what's actually important or what's actually urgent. To you, everything feels urgent and important, and even the team feels the pressure, the burnout. um, yes, we bring them problems to solve because we know they would always step in. But I feel like working like that to me doesn't feel empowering. It feels very how do I put it, like anxiety inducing sort of.
Yeah.
um, yeah.
So, very much part of assessing where you're
Mhm.
at is how do you feel every day? Are you feeling
Yeah,
burnt out? And how does your
absolutely.
team feel? Do
Hmm.
they feel like they're always in crisis mode?
Yeah.
Right?
Hmm.
I look at focus. You know, where is your focus every day? Are you focusing your attention on the problems of today,
Hmm.
or are they bigger picture focus?
Hmm.
So what gets your focus? And if you had to allocate a percentage, what percentage of your day do you focus on today's problems? And what percentage of the day do you focus on the bigger picture and the future?
Hmm. Yeah.
And the higher you rise, the higher level management you're in, the bigger the scope and the more future facing you're looking at.
Hmm.
3, if we look at your calendar, what does that look like? Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Is it meeting after meeting after meeting?
Hmm.
What kind of meetings are you having? What are those meetings focused on? That's
Hmm.
also a really great indicator, with my clients. That could be something that we look at. What's on your calendar? Where is your focus? What kind of tasks are you doing? So when you're not in meetings, what kind of work are you picking up? And what's the value of that task? Are you doing $20 tasks, or are you doing $400 tasks?
Hmm.
What's the value of that task? The higher you rise, the more you have to take on the task that will give you the biggest return on investment.
Yeah.
And then you can look at the time matrix. Where do you spend your time in terms of importance and urgency? And if you're stuck in the not so important but urgent category, it's definitely a sign that you are in reactive mode.
Hmm.
So if you've identified that you're in reactive mode, welcome to the club. Lots of people are here too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very easy because in the moment the problems of today create an internal reaction. And when you feel the unpleasantness, like there is a problem to be solved, our behavioral system wants to jump in and get it solved. And then after it's solved, we feel the relief. It feels good to solve problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
It feels yucky to stay in the problem or even to allow other people to solve the problem when we're not sure or we're going to see them muddle through
Mm.
when we know we can solve the problem very efficiently. So
Yeah.
it comes down to feelings and how we're going to navigate those feelings
Hmm.
of discomfort. And being in a leadership position is not comfortable. It's not comfortable. And it's okay to be in that discomfort. It's not dangerous. It's just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about the shift. This is where it gets juicy. Like, how do you step away from this and step into the strategic leader that you want to be, that you know you're capable of being? I want to share with you 5 little tips that would help you create that shift. These are the shifts that I work on with my clients in my executive coaching sessions. So there might be a shift here that you hear that you're like, maybe there's my opportunity. And maybe there's a few. So let's go with shift number 1. Stop being the first line of defense. If people know that problem arises, run to you,
Hmm.
guess what? You're always going to have somebody knocking at your door.
Yeah.
So think about the process. How are you setting up this process of problem solving with your team? What is the process? You can almost think about it like a decision-making tree, right? So a problem comes to light, a problem is identified, then what happens? What should happen? What is step 1? What is step 2? What is step 3? What is step 4? At what point do they knock on your door? And so the answer is not don't knock on my door, but it's here's what I'm expecting before you knock on my door.
Yeah. And I think you model that beautifully because sometimes I bring you problems, and then you ask me, what have you tried? What do you think? And then it snaps me out of the panic mode and into like problem solving mode. And it's not just your job to lead, it's also my job to step up. And at
Yes.
first, I would say it was intimidating, like, oh, have I done something? But now it's empowering. Like now I know, what you're doing here, and it works beautifully for us.
Yeah. And it is difficult for employees if they've not been used to doing the problem solving on their own, or they've been relying on you to do the problem solving, and now we're upgrading the rules of the game. And
Hmm.
it's going to take them a hot second
Yeah.
to get on board with this. So they're gonna be like, what do you mean you're not gonna tell me? You want me to figure it out? It's gonna be uncomfortable for them. And it's okay. Right? We grow in that zone of discomfort. It's okay for them to be uncomfortable. It's okay for them to push back. It's okay for them to say, hey, I would rather you just tell me the right answer.
Hmm.
That's very okay because they're growing the skill. And the more they grow the skill, the more they're going to be capable of doing it on their own. This is where we're going to become self managed. So we want to empower our team, we don't want to enable them. Okay? How do we empower the team?
We let them step up. We don't fix their problems at every knock on the door.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm there to support. I'm there to ask questions, and I'm there to help them grow the skills. I'm there to help them grow the skills. And I think about, this is what I share with my clients, and they think it's hilarious and it works, is, as somebody knocks on your door and brings you, in my mind, it's a big orange ball of responsibility. It has the word responsibility or ownership depending on the day. But this is like the thing, right, that they're carrying, that they're coming to you with, and they're saying, I need help carrying this ball. And as you invite them into your office and you start talking about the ball, right? Imagine that the ball is put right on the desk or right on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And your challenge is to not touch the ball. First part of the challenge is don't touch the ball. It's their ball of ownership. What you're going to do is you're going to help them think about how they're going to carry that ball, what they're going to do with that ball, what's their relationship with the ball, what's challenging them as an employee in carrying this ball, and what skills are they going to need in order to do it. So that's the first part, is don't touch the ball. The second part is make sure that they carry that ball out with them. So as we end the conversation, they need to pick up the ball and leave. They can't leave the ball in your office. They can't leave it on your desk. And you still can't touch it.
Yeah.
Don't touch the ball. Focus on the person. Empower the person. Help them grow the skills. Right? What's coming up for you, Kay?
Yeah, something I'm curious about, like, how do you decide what problems to respond to and which ones to let the team handle? Like, what's your internal checkpoint?
That is a beautiful question, which leads me perfectly to number 3, which
Okay.
is define what's yours to handle.
Mm.
And the tricky bit here is that is going to be different for every person, depending on your level of leadership, right? Where you are. So somebody who's a frontline manager would be very different from a middle manager, a high level manager. Then you can look at the different organizations and then the different industries, right? If I'm in manufacturing and there is a problem on the line, and maybe I am a frontline manager and somebody sounds the alarm bell, okay, I need to react.
Okay. Yeah.
Because this problem is going to have a big impact on our productivity, not just for one person, not just that person on the line, but everyone in that department or even beyond. It could also mean a security issue, right? So that is not so that, would be very different than the work that I do. When do I intervene? What is a crisis that I need to intervene on? And when do I support the emergency? And when do I step away and just support at a distance? So that there needs to be some intentional thought that goes into that. Look at what are the emergencies that you're dealing with all day long, and which one of those emergencies should you actually be handling? What is yours to handle?
Yeah.
And what is somebody else's job to handle? So I'll have, sometimes the question will be like, well, can you have that conversation with me or for me with another person? And most often, my answer is no, but I can have the conversation with you, with that person, or I can be there as a support to you.
Mm-hmm.
Except when there are fundamental rights or big conflictual problems in which I actually need to intervene. I need to champion, I need to say something, because if I don't, there's something harmful that's happening. Right? So there are the little points in which,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I do need to step in.
Mm-hmm.
Does What did you just hear, Kay, based on the
Yeah,
question you asked?
yeah, I think you answered it beautifully. Define what's yours to handle, and it must take like some time to do that, because you don't know like what are the problems that you need to step in, and sometimes what's urgent may look different for everyone, but I think you need to look at a bigger picture and see what's really urgent, what could affect everyone and the business in the bigger picture, and then you step into that problem. Otherwise you just let the person handle it on their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I look at how critical it is, like what kind of impact is it going to have. So
Mhm.
scope and timeline.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
those are two dimensions that I use to assess how big of a part I need to play in it. But it takes
Mm,
intentionality. So it takes having that clarity, being intentional in how you step in and when you
yeah,
step in. And it also takes a lot of self-regulation,
I
because
agree
in
with
those
that.
moments there's going
Yeah,
to be some uncomfortableness, and you're going to feel the urge to step in, to say something, to do something.
yeah. Because sometimes, like, I bring small problems. It's always easier for the leader to answer it very quickly, but it's difficult for them to take a step back and let the other person solve it by themselves. So I
That's correct.
completely agree. Yeah.
That's correct. All right. So that was shift number 3. Ready for shift number 4?
Mm-hmm.
Prioritize like a CEO. Prioritizing, so important. And what is a priority when you're on the front lines doing the work? When you're an employee that's focused on the work that's on the desk and um, your own personal productivity, versus what's your priority when you're a frontline manager, versus what your priorities are as a middle manager, as a high level manager, as an executive, as a CEO. It's going to change.
Mm-hmm.
And we get stuck in our priorities when we started our careers or when we were. And it's important to update that picture. What's truly important to prioritize in your role? And
Mm-hmm.
it's okay that your priorities are slightly different than your employees. They should be.
Yes. Yes.
If we were prioritizing all the same thing, we'd be all doing the same job.
Yeah.
So update the picture of your priorities, and your priorities are going to be helpful in your decision making and what goes on your calendar, in what gets your attention. So think operating system. This is your operating system.
Yeah.
And finally, we need to create space. for leadership.
Hmm.
We need to create space. We're never going to find the time. Time doesn't magically appear when you do a good job. It's not at the end of the to-do list that you find time.
Hmm. Yeah.
The to-do list never ends, right?
Never.
But what do you put on that to-do list? What are you putting on your calendar? What are you creating space for? And in your role as leader, it goes from doing the work as an employee to working through people. So the role of leader is really connecting with people
Mhm.
and getting the work done. Yes, you're responsible for the outcomes. Yes, you're responsible for results and productivity, but not your own. The productivity that you're getting done through others.
Yeah.
So, what is the role of leadership? If you're responsible for getting the work done through others, what are things that you want to create the space for? Let's
Mhm.
put a few things on the table. If you're responsible for getting the work done through others, well, others are really important.
Yeah.
So having those touch points with your employees, and
Mhm.
depending on the size of the team, you would structure that differently. But having time, creating space for people, and helping them develop the skills,
Mhm.
supporting them while they problem solve,
Yeah.
growing their capacity to deliver. And so, what's interesting when you make that shift is even in your conversations, what you'll notice is instead of talking about the work, you'll start focusing on the person doing the work, which is a very different conversation to be having with your employees. But that's going to grow the capacity, and you're going to have better results as a result of that, because now it's not just your personal productivity. You have a whole team that you're enabling and growing the capacity for more productivity. We have to create the space. We have to
Mhm.
prioritize and create the space. So I wonder, from the conversation that we're having today, what really stands out to you, Kay? And I'm going to ask for anyone who's listening, drop me a comment. What's really standing out to you?
Hmm. I think what's standing out to me is firstly, I think the most important thing is define what's yours to take, and then everything follows. So, for example, something that I recall is like I've worked under leaders who were constantly in crisis mode, like every week was the big week, the big one. And as a team member, it felt like really you have no space to own anything.
Right.
We were like always reacting with them, and that creates a very vicious cycle. And I remember like once trying to bring up a new idea, but hearing like, okay, let's talk about this next week, I'm swamped, I'm overworked, or but the next week never came, and then that idea was lost, so you eventually stopped suggesting anything. So the message became like, your growth can wait. And I feel like that should never happen. And when you do all of this, and when you break the firefighting cycle, there's more growth, there's more opportunities, there's more revenue. Everything just multiplies and grows. So it's very, very important to break that as a company, as a team, as a leader. Um, yeah, so that's like a big takeaway for me.
Yeah. And so there is a beautiful opportunity here. What's yours to handle? Well, as we look at the scope of our role and
Yeah.
how we individually want to be in that role. So just because two people have the same role doesn't mean they're going to show up in the same way. So, what are those bounds? What are those boundaries? And
Hmm.
those boundaries that we set up around ourselves
Hmm.
is it creates the balance. And as we're thinking about not burning out, right? We talked about that feeling of burning out and not wanting to burn out in our role. Well, the the it comes from having the balance, and the balance comes from having the boundaries of knowing exactly who you're going to be when things are going well and when they go sideways. Who
Hmm.
you're going to be, what you're going to do, what you're not going to do, and how you're going to work with others and how you're going to relate with others.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so passionate about boundaries and balance, because they help leaders really step into the role that they're meant to play and
Absolutely.
do the important work that they're meant to do. And that's why I created a masterclass, the Boundaries and Balance Masterclass, which we launched earlier this year in January, has been just a wonderful piece for leaders to come and explore and really update how they're operating in their leadership to create more of what they need to reclaim their time, to reclaim their energy, and to be their best when it matters the most.
Hmm.
Because the thing is if you're firefighting all the time, at the end of the day, you're tired. And when the big crisis hits, the critical crisis that needs you to be at your best, you're not there. It's going to be hard for you to show up. So we do need to set ourselves up so that we are in a state of readiness, that we have the mental, the emotional, the physical capacity to show up and be our best for our people,
Hmm.
for our organizations, for our bigger purpose. Because I feel like I'm on a soapbox right now. To my TED talk. But it is really important, and those boundaries don't. I'm not taught when I talk about boundaries. I don't talk about the leave work at 5 or take your lunch break, or yes, do those things, but that's not what's going to create the balance within your role. And you're not exhausted because you left at 5:30, right? You're not exhausted because you didn't do your lunch break. You're exhausted because of how you're not balanced within your role. It's what's happening
Absolutely.
between the 9 and 5 that's creating the exhaustion. So this is where we're going to find the key to creating that balance. So not your typical boundaries. I hope you join me for the masterclass. We're going to take a new perspective on boundaries in a leadership role and what balance actually means. We're going to talk about internal balance. We're going to talk about external balance, which is also part of your role, bringing things in a balance to things that are in tension,
Yeah.
and how you're going to reclaim all of that for yourself so you can be the leader you want to be. And what a beautiful time in Q4 as we're thinking about, you know, for most of us, it's our busy season,
Hmm.
which is the right time to be thinking about this and to say,
Exactly. I was going to say that. Yeah. That's when you need this more than anyone.
all right. So if you want to update your operating system as a leader and hit reset and reclaim what's yours, join us October 20th. So that's next Tuesday. To register, Kay, how would they register?
Yes, so I would be dropping a link. You just need to go to that link and drop in your name and your email address, and you will be registered. You'll receive everything related to the masterclass. That includes the Zoom link, the calendar invite, everything will be sent to you. And when you attend live, you will be receiving a beautifully curated private boundary playbook by Melissa, and that's worth over, I think, 800 plus dollars.
Yeah. So I'm including some of my favorite tools as it relates to boundaries and balance. So the tools that I'm using with my executive clients.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful Wednesday. And
Yeah.
it's time, I've reached my boundary, and it's time for me to switch to coaching mode. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.